Bellerin, Bellerin, Hector Bellerin.
In by Mustafi. Bellerin, brilliant! 2-2.
Hector Bellerin, Bellerin, Hector Bellerin. Na, 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 na. Dat is het. Ja.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday edition, the latest Tuesday edition of Saved by the Bellerin, the Arsenal football podcast here on the Sports Talk Line Network. Joining you this from the United States, as always, I'm Raphael. My UK contingent today, a little smaller, but no less illustrious. To my left on the video dial is Sam. How you do, Sam?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, mate. How about yourself?
Doing well. And of course, joining us a little more rested, adapting to fatherhood is our man, Ryan. Welcome back, Ryan. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Hope you're both doing very well.
Oh yes, a lot to discuss in the Arsenal football world. Let's hop right in. Talk about transfers, talk about movement, talk about redemption. Lots of topics, but we're going to begin today with Fulham because if we just look at our calendars, in a mere 4 days, Arsenal will open the Prem season against one of the new arrivals or returnees to the Prem in Fulham. I'm going to begin with you, Sam, because we started talking last week about what to expect, and you brought up the challenges that Arsenal frequently face from teams presenting a low block, making it hard for them to attack. Brand new team in the Prem. Obviously, Fulham have been there before, but it's been a while as they return. Manager Scott Parker's their manager. He was not there the last time they were in the Prem. You expect them to take a cautious approach? I would expect something a little more guarded in their first match.
Yeah, I think guarded is the poignant word there, to be perfectly honest. With Fulham, I believe they're going to want to try and get something to start on a good foot for the season, whether that's a point or the 3 points. But what I think they're going to be very wary of is us on the counter-attack. I think, especially if we go in the 3-4-3, they're going to say, well, that's not necessarily attacking formation, so you're going to have to come out and kind of adapt your formation to try and break us down. Hopefully we start with Danny Ceballos and Xhaka in the middle midfield, because that does give us a bit of creativity from the midfield. But I think one way that we can potentially remove a low block is by playing short, sharp passes in and around the box, like we know that Arsenal can do. Have potentially Willian and Pepe cutting in on their stronger foots, unleashing shots at goal. But yeah, I think personally a low block, we might struggle initially with it, but I've got full confidence that Arteta's got a plan up his sleeve, because we all know he'd be extremely well prepped for this Fulham side. So I think that will definitely spring a few surprises for him throughout the game.
Right. Ryan, let's bring you in. You've been looking at Fulham, scouting them. You have a little video to tease for the viewers here. I'm thinking back to recent Arsenal season openers, and they've been a very mixed bag. Even late Wenger under Emery, some disappointing openers. This is the first season opener for Mikel Arteta. Do you expect him to be a little guarded, or he's at home, there's no crowd? He adapted very well, it seemed, to playing his team to playing in empty stadiums with COVID. What kind of approach do you expect from him?
I expect the same approach as he's approached every game he's managed for us so far, which is to beat everyone. He had that quote where he's like, "We've had too many days where it's on our day we can beat, rather than every day is our day." So he wants every day to be our day where we can beat absolutely everyone. We don't lie down for anyone. We're going to play the way we want to play. And I feel like he's going to do that again. And just to touch on Sam's question, I've been controversial in my video, actually. I've added my own formation that I would play against Fulham after watching them. And they have a little problem. Well, I say problem, it's more of a gap between their defence and their midfield. And like a certain number 10 could probably fit in there. I don't want to say too much, but he could fit and just knit everything together.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk. Don't be shy. Let's bring Sam back. A certain number 10. Sam, we've seen training photos. We've seen the return. Let's call him the prodigal gunner. Mesut Ozil is back, and he seems to be part of the manager's plans. You know, I don't think it's too productive to try to figure out what didn't happen or why he wasn't available in COVID. COVID's done. Arsenal won the FA Cup. Arsenal's back in Europe. Arsenal's where they need to be. But he was clearly, we talked about this in the stretch, he was clearly a player Arteta could have used, who could have helped his attack. And now he's back. Mesut Ozil, where does he fit in Saturday's match? Is he a player you would put on the bench? Is he a player you would start?
For me, I'd start with him. See how long we can get out of his legs. Obviously, he's only been back for a couple of sessions in training, so I think the duration of the game might be a bit difficult for him. But ultimately, I would start him because if you've got to think, if a player's coming off the bench, they're then going to have to get up to the speed of the game. We don't know what type of form Mesut's going to be coming back into the fold with. I'd imagine it'll be still decent to very good. But ultimately, if he's starting, we can really tire Fulham down and really grind them down, because ultimately Mesut isn't going to lose his passing ability over the time that he's been unavailable. So for me, he's still the best creator at the club at the moment. But I'd definitely start him against Fulham, because I'm not being funny as well. It's not exactly a top tier caliber of opposition. So it might be a game where he can use his smarts to unlock different doors for us. And especially if he's got that links with Aubameyang and Pepe, and to a certain extent Willian, which I'm sure they've been working on in training. It could be potentially a cricket score if everything clicks and goes on song.
All right, let's stay with him though. You know, a lot of talk. He's always been a lightning rod, even in the best of times. But you know, last COVID had people eager to shove him out the door. I mean, we've talked about him. You know, has his time passed, and we, you know, kind of waffled. I've been on both sides of that fence. What do you think about him? I'm going to stay with you, Sam, for just to finish up. Beyond this game, long term, is he a player that you think Mikel can count on? Either and how and in what capacity, as a reserve or as a starter beyond the Fulham match?
I want to say yes, and hopefully it will be a yes. I think that if we get our primary targets in, he won't be a starter, but he'll be a good rotation option to have, considering the formations that we've discussed in previous pods that Arteta will be looking at implementing. It suits him down to a T. Personally, until he gets fully up to speed, barring the first game of the season, I would potentially have him on the bench. And if it's Cup and Europa League games, I'd be starting him in them sort of games. But obviously, once he's up to speed competitively, then yeah, as Arteta says, whoever performs on the training ground gets the space in the team. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and it'll be one that I'd imagine a lot of people will be watching with eager eyes. Obviously, some people think Ozil is done out here, but you know, if Mikel's willing to give him the chance to prove himself, getting back into the team, I'm not being funny. He knows it. So yeah, I'd say start first game, back to the bench second game, and then just be a rotation option therefore after.
All right, Ryan, let's bring you back. You were quite bullish on him starting and being a factor in this match. Let's start with that. Expand on why you are so bullish on having him start this match on Saturday.
Because a player like Mesut Ozil, just from his name, draws markers to him. So like the defenders are going to surround him because everyone in the football world knows how good Mesut Ozil is. You just have to hear the Crystal Palace winger Andros Townsend on TalkSport last week. Mesut Ozil is still a world-class player. And that's from him, from a Premier League player. So when Ozil is in the pocket, when he has the space, defenders are going to try and crowd him out. Then that's going to leave spaces for Pepe, Willian, Ceballos, Aubameyang, whoever is playing. So it doesn't nullify their threat either. And we saw that when we played Newcastle, when we won 4-0, when we played United, where we beat them 2-0. Whenever Ozil plays, he draws defenders out. And receiving the pass in my team that I chose for Saturday was Xhaka and Ceballos at the base of midfield, because they can play the passes in between the lines and get him free. And if he's in that space, there's no one better to make that final pass. And that's something we've struggled with quite a bit over the last 10 games after COVID. You saw Willock trying to play there, didn't really happen. So Arteta changed our formation completely to counteract defensive struggles and us not being able to create. So for me, Ozil has to play against, in no disrespect to the lower teams, just for that creative ability, because when we play against a low block, we have nothing for them. We saw it at Aston Villa. We created absolutely nothing, and they're teams that we should be beating.
All right. So you're talking 4-2-3-1 then, as your
Yes.
oven information. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sam, let's come back to you. We talk about, as we're preparing the show, what we call selection headaches. I mean, the next segment here of the pod. A lot of new players, a lot of unfamiliar players, a lot of players who are on the fence. We don't know if they're going to stay with the club. We don't know if they're going to go out. But they're still in the squad. They've still been practicing. Obviously, it's vital. It's not absolutely necessary, but I think fans would be very disappointed if Arsenal doesn't come away with this match with 3 points. It's important to get off to a good start. Let's look at those positional headaches in the short term. What would you do? I'm going to start with you at left back. Hector Bellerin obviously is mentioned as a possible transfer target. He's been linked with PSG. We've talked about it recently, but he started in the Community Shield. If you're Mikel Arteta, do you start him against Fulham? Do you risk injury, or do you go with Cedric?
I personally would start Bellerin. I think that it gives us that little bit more than what Cedric does. I'm not being funny. Looking at the pre-season games, I know you can't really tell too much about it, but Cedric looked very, very shaky in them games, and potentially I'd go with Bellerin because he gives. I personally feel he gives us more going forward. Defensively, he's that little bit better than Cedric, but obviously you've got Maitland-Niles that's away with England at the moment. I don't think that he would come straight back into one of the fullback positions. But yeah, moving with right back, I think Hector Bellerin has to start this game until he's actually potentially sold. He has to start for us, in my opinion. He literally is probably our best right back at this point in time.
All right, Ryan, we're going to pull a question right out of the chat, and we thank you for the question. Let's move to keeper. Right, Emi Martinez started after Leno was injured, was quite good, better than quite good, very good in the run in the Cup final, in the Community Shield. Reports we'll get to a little later in the pod that he's going to he might be on his way to Aston Villa, but both keepers are available in this match. Do you stay with the hot hand? Do you go back to your starter who has Leno only lost a position because of injury? Do you want to risk Martinez? If you're Mikel Arteta, what's your thinking and what are you going to do?
For me personally, it's going to be quite annoying for everyone else, but I'm going to go with Leno because, as Sam said on Twitter, a lot of Arsenal fans have lost some memory of how good he actually is. And before COVID, before he got his injury, no one was talking about Emi Martinez being our number one. Fair enough, he's come in and absolutely taken his chance. Fair play to him. But Leno is still the better goalkeeper. He's a better shot stopper. He's more vocal to his defence. Emi Martinez is a great goalkeeper, but I just think for me Leno is a lot better. He's a elite goalkeeper.
All right, Sam, coming back to you, another question, and and the answer to this may depend on the formation Mikel chooses, but he's been going with three in the back. He's had David Luiz at the center. He's been playing Rob Holding on the right. He's been having Kieran Tierney on the left at that position. Ryan is talking about a 4-2-3-1. If he's going with a four-man back line, does he stay with the people he knows, with the people he's familiar with? He's got two really exciting young defenders. Does he stay with Rob Holding? Does he stay with David Luiz? Or does he go with the kids? He's got William Saliba. He's got Gabriel, who's training now, though those guys are going to be green. They're not going to be familiar. Does he risk some miscues and perhaps giving up a goal because of lack of familiarity, even though they probably are the better players?
Personally, I think that we can't really go with any mistakes. I think that if we're going to be going with a back four, we should start how we mean to go on. So in that case, I would have William Saliba and Gabriel starting together so that they can work on their positional familiarity with each other. Again, that gives us a lot of different options when defending set pieces, attacking set pieces, playing out from the back. We'll have a very balanced back line when playing out the back as well. Say that you have Willow Saliba, Hector Bellerin, both right-footed. So, as I've spoken in quite a few articles that's on the Sports Talkline website, that having a right-footed centre-back playing it down the wing to the right winger, the curve of the ball, the winger doesn't have to adjust their body position and their body shape. Same with the people on the left-hand side. If you've got a right footer on the left-hand side and you're playing a long ball down to your winger, the winger then has to adjust the body position. You don't have that fluidity throughout the team. I think that it's a good game for Saliba and Gabriel to come into, because I know Fulham have come up from the Championship. They're perceived as a lesser team, but it will be a challenge for them. So for them to integrate into the game, into the English game, I don't see a better start for them, to be perfectly honest. A Championship side, and then West Ham, a team in disarray. So for me, I'll go with the two of them.
Okay, fair enough. Ryan, one more. I don't want to call it a headache, but it's a challenge. It's not an obvious. Let's go to left wing. Willian was signed from Chelsea, and obviously the team has big plans for him. But this is his first match. Do you sit Bukayo Saka, who played so well on the left side, at left back, on the wing, wherever Mikel wanted to put him on the right side too in the Community Shield? He seems to be on a bit of a roll, and he seems to be earning his manager's trust. But do you sit him in deference to the new guy, or do you know Willian is quite good off the bench? Do you just let each of them work in their more comfortable recent roles?
I went with Saka as the left winger, mainly because he's had much more of a pre-season, and he knows the Arsenal players a lot better than Willian does right now. So I went with Saka because, in my opinion, he's undroppable, because his performances every game are just getting better and better and better. Especially against Liverpool in the Community Shield, he made that goal for Aubameyang with that delightful pass. So I just don't think you can drop him right now. He's got confidence. He's playing for the England under-21s. So I think Saka for me would be a obvious choice.
All right, and we talked about it. It seems obvious. Aubameyang's playing up top, gentlemen. I mean, yes, I think would do that. All right. Let's talk about another prodigal gunner. Sam, let's bring you back, because he's like the new lightning rod. Ozil is the veteran lightning rod, but Matteo Guendouzi caused a bit of a stir across the Gunners world today after some pretty strong matches with the French under-23s. Talking about, let's get back to work. Arsenal, he had the red and the white. That immediately got people thinking, oh, he's back. He and Ozil are back. Arteta is giving him a ninth life in the red and white too. You're not so sold on that.
No. I'm going to start to say people will probably give me an absolute hammering on Twitter and in the chat right now. But for me, Matteo Guendouzi is a player that needs to be gone. I don't believe that he has the attitude to continue in this Arsenal side. Obviously, if we're talking about chances, then if Mikel wants to give him a second chance, then, so be it. But for me, I'd have to ask a few questions around the management there, because if you think about last year and the amount of times he was disruptive last year as well, behind the scenes in where'd they go? Dubai. And then also Edu had to pull him aside at an Arsenal Foundation dinner. We all know he openly mocked Unai Emery and played the Joker in training sessions. When he got asked to knuckle down and start training, he kind of threw his toys out the pram. So moving forward onto the actual pitch, for me, I don't believe he's the midfielder we need right now, because his positional awareness is dreadful. If we're going to be looking to have a solid base in midfield, so we're a lot harder to break down, so that then enables us to counter-attack, we can't have Matteo Guendouzi charging out of the central midfield into no man's land, because we saw it last season, we saw it the season before. People will just literally pass through him. And when he tries to track his runner back, he doesn't take the responsibility. He literally tries to palm it onto a defender that he doesn't communicate to. And sometimes, and there's some games where the defender already had a man that were marking, and Matteo's trying to pass another man on to the defender's blind side, and you just think to yourself, what are you doing? Like, yes, I understand that Guendouzi has got some dribbling ability, but then his decision making after that, for me, isn't good enough. People can say that he passes through the lines. I saw it twice last season. I don't see him as a progressive passer. I see him as a safe passer in terms of going sideways and backwards. I really do not see what the hype is around the kid. I know I'll say he's a kid. He's not even a kid. He's a bloody adult. He's 21. But I just don't see the hype around him. Like I've said on Twitter today, at 21, he should really be kicking on with his career. He's seemingly not. The end of last season, he completely down tools. Arteta banned him from actually training with the first team. He had to come in and do his own separate sessions. You know, if he comes back, first of all, he needs to apologise to the manager and staff. Secondly, he needs to apologise to the squad for not being available to him. And thirdly, people may not like it, but he ultimately does need to apologise to us, the fans, if he is going to change his mentality, knuckle down and work hard. But for me and his character, I just don't see it happening. So obviously, if Mikel wants to give him a second chance, so be it. But for me, I personally don't rate him. I don't think he's quality of Arsenal, and I don't think he's a midfielder that we actually need.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to stay with Guendouzi. I'm going to pull a question. Dylan raised an interesting question, following on Sam's assessment. If it's this critical, if these shortcomings are known, these character flaws, if you will, are known to everybody, not just to Arsenal. We know it, so everybody else must know it. Doesn't that hurt his market? Is there a market for him? I mean, I've seen people say, oh, Arsenal can't sell him, so they may as well keep him and build his value back up. But, I do recall reports not that long ago that Unai Emery still thinks very highly of him and asked for him when he first took over the Villarreal job. Is there a market for him, in your opinion?
That report that said Unai Emery wanted him, they wanted to loan him with an option of 16 million euros. 16. For me, Matteo Guendouzi is a 30 million pound player. Just right now, with his attitude problems and whatnot. But if we can't, as you just mentioned, if we can't sell him, there's no point discarding him from the squad. Build his value back up. If Arteta's going to give him another chance, so be it. He's got to prove his worth. Like Xhaka did. Xhaka got given another chance. Everyone's forgiven him. And look how he's played for Arteta. So if Xhaka can do it, and hopefully Arteta can improve Guendouzi, because there's a player in there. I've always said it. There's a player behind the attitude, behind the behaviour problems. There's a player in there. And if Arteta can make Mustafi look like a prime Maldini, he can make Guendouzi look decent. And even if it's just to raise his value for January. Because right now, we're not, even Leon's sporting director, Juninho, said today, Guendouzi's not the profile we're looking for.
And that is, I guess, a danger. But, as you pointed out on the flip, and we've talked about this on the pod, I mean, one of Mikel Arteta's values to himself, as much as anybody else, is that he's taken all these players that have been devalued, that everybody wants to discard, and people still want to move players like, say, Mustafi on and Guendouzi on, but he is almost certainly, let's put Matteo to the side, he's a separate case, but he's raised everybody else's value, right? He did it with Lacazette. He kind of restored his value. Definitely did it with Xhaka. Definitely did it with Mustafi. So, maybe you found the middle ground. Maybe it's just another few months for him to reignite interest in Matteo Guendouzi. I mean, I think if it came to the point where he, as the manager, said, I can't work with this kid, or at least he needs an extended timeout, if you will, he was that petulant. I don't see that in the long term just going away, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, gentlemen, let's get to that segment. I mean, actual transfers have been kind of quiet, but there's no lack of news. There's no lack of chatter. Sam, let's bring you back. Juninho, as Ryan was saying, did have an interview with French radio, or one of the bigger radio. It might have been in England earlier today, but he was asked about Hassan Aouar, whether he's going to be moved on. There was some chatter. It looks like disinformation from Italy yesterday, from a fan site, like a Juve fan site, that there is another one of those gentlemen's special. I think special agreement was the term. There are always agreements with the Italian clubs, it seems. That doesn't seem to have come to anything. It depends if we want to look at the glass half full or the glass half empty. If you're an Arsenal fan, he didn't discount the possibility of Aouar going to Arsenal. At the same time, he didn't say it's imminent. What was your takeaway? He was kind of waffled there.
For me, this was a typical interview saying, look, something is potentially in the pipeline. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Obviously, he said that Guendouzi was a player that was discussed, but it's something that they don't want to take further. So for me, essentially, that interview was, you put out the money, he's your player. Because, yes, he did mention PSG and Man City, but he also mentioned that they haven't contacted him directly. They're only talking through agents. So at the moment, Arsenal are the only club that have approached Leon through Gervinho. So for me, Edu and him are good friends. They know each other from their time in Brazil. They've been talking. I think it's a case of, and as something I've always been saying on Twitter, is that the current squad size needs to deplete before we start bringing in Aouar and Partey. Now, I think that this still potentially could be a little bit more further advanced than what we're thinking and what we're being told at this present time, because as we know, 9 times out of 10, the news is a week to 2 weeks behind. I believe that we will be shifting some players and then going to Leon and saying, look, here's potentially 50 million euros spread over 5 years. It's 10 million euros per season. That's easily done. So I think Leon will take that. Also, another thing that was quite interesting, he did say that Dembele, Depay and Aouar, not all three will depart. So there only seems to be a market for Depay and Aouar at the moment. I've not seen much of a market for Dembele. But if potentially Brian suggested in one of the group chats this morning that they have tried to sign Lacazette on loan. Obviously, Lacazette's wages are a major concern to them. Jorginho turned around and said he's got to be honest with the Lyon fans that they can't afford his wages. But if Arsenal were to potentially subsidise some of his wages, offered Lacazette and say 15 to 20 million euros, I think Lyon would take that.
Interesting. Moving right along, Ryan, another player. We just talked about him earlier in the pod. A story today, it started yesterday, that Aston Villa has made an improved offer to Arsenal. I believe the language was close to the desired target. Arsenal wants 20 million. We saw earlier, about a week ago, I think their initial offer came in at 10 million. That was immediately kicked back. That might not have been Villa. That might have been another club. I think it was at Leeds. There are other clubs that are linked with him. But it looks like Villa has come back to the table. again, is this a question of, do you take the money and use that for an Aouar move to subsidize a Partey move? Do you hold out for 20? We've talked about this on earlier pods. You guys would rather not go down to one keeper if you could avoid it. But if 20 million comes in, is that the point where you say, okay, this offer is just too good to refuse?
For me, I think we can squeeze a little bit more for him. You look at the Bournemouth goalkeeper signing for Sheffield United for 20 million. He's not as good as Martinez. And you see Aston Villa spending 30 million on Ollie Watkins. I think we can try and squeeze at least 5 million more out of them, and then potentially try and get Areola on loan, which was reported today. If we can get him on loan and then reinvest that 25 million into midfield, it's 100% worth it. Arteta did say before the window opened that he's going to have to make some tough decisions, and that's one of them. You don't really want to lose a keeper or a player that's been at Arsenal for 10 years. In one way or another, he's been at the club for 10 years, and you don't really want to lose that kind of loyalty, that kind of person that knows the club, loves the club. But sacrifices have to be made if we want to become an elite club again.
Okay, Sam, more moves, more rumored moves. Earlier today, that Sokratis to Napoli finally is done. It looked like Arsenal may have just waived the fee just to move his salary off the books. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. The transfer fee being discussed was very small, and we know that Sokratis' salary is quite large, so that may have factored into Arsenal's thinking. But there is a possible name that clears a spot on the roster, as you were mentioning earlier. Also, it seems, and it's been close for a couple of days, that Lucas Torreira is heading to Italy. Now it looks like Torino's his destination. Looks like another situation similar to the Martinez, where Arsenal has a price, has a floor that they want that hasn't quite been met. It sounds like it's close. Should Arsenal drive for that last couple £1 million and just hold the line on what they're willing to do? Or, I think we're in that push-pull where fans are getting restless, and they want Partey, they want Aouar, they want the deals done, and Arsenal's taken a far more prudent approach. Are you okay with that?
Am I okay with that? Not really, but obviously we know that the transfer window really kicks off in the final 2 weeks. We can only push clubs to act quicker so much. Obviously, their deliberation on their offers sometimes takes a bit of time. But with Torreira, his market value has dropped this year. Personally, just to speed things up a bit, I would probably take Torino's offer at the moment, which I think is 24 million euros. Obviously, Sokratis coming off the wage bill, that's going to free up around about 8 million a year. So yeah, I just from a fan's point of view, I would try and speed up the process in just taking the deal as it is at the moment. I agree with Ryan with Martinez to probably try and squeeze another 5 million out of Villa, and if we can do that, then that's Partey's release clause. That's more or less the full amount of money that you want for Aouar. So just as I say, just to speed things up a bit more, yeah, definitely take what's on the table at the moment.
All right, Ryan. Other people we can talk about. Rob Holdings looks like he's going to Newcastle, though that's on hold. But it does appear that at some point in the near future, he will be going out on loan there. Hector Bellerin, obviously, we don't know. PSG is obviously interested in him. That looks like another matter where Arsenal wants a little bit more than what they've offered, and they're dickering on that. But regardless of how this happens, we have to talk about this. Matches start on Saturday. They can't just push 4 players out all at once. Mikel's got to have a squad as he brings these guys in. If we talk about Aouar, and we all want him. We all love him, but he's recovering from COVID right now. It's not going to be an immediate thing. He's going to have to come in, get healthy, then obviously probably go through quarantine. Probably the same with Thomas Partey. This is a little longer term thing. I mean, even if the deals were announced tomorrow, these guys might not be until the beginning of the window. Arsenal has to be very careful of how they unroll this, don't they?
Yeah, definitely, and especially as some of the players are on international duty this week, so they're coming back from that. Some of them came back later from pre-season, so we don't really know what kind of squad we're going to have at the weekend. So I think right now it's very quiet. I think from Monday onwards, it's going to start picking up a little bit more, because then we know where we are with our squad. Because then we have, with Rob Holding, I said it in our group chat, there could be a number of reasons why his move's on hold. Mari might have had a setback in his injury. Sokratis looks like he's leaving. Mustafi might have an offer where we have to get rid of him as well. And we don't want to be short at the start of the season. We don't know how Saliba is going to start the season. We don't know how Gabriel is going to start the season. They might not adapt quick enough. We don't want to be left with just David Luiz, who's our most... Yeah. Exactly. So there's a whole combination of things with that kind of move. So I think once the first game is out of the way and we know where we're at, I think that's when all the news will start picking up a little bit more, because then we have no reason to just go for these players once all of our deadwood is out the door. And with Thomas Partey, he doesn't have to quarantine because he'll be in the elite sportsman bubble, and he started pre-season training, so he doesn't have to quarantine.
There you go. All right, gentlemen, we're in injury time for the pod. Final shots, final predictions. Obviously, again, 4 days from now, the season begins against Fulham. Sam, let's go to you. How do you see the match unfolding, and what's your predicted result?
I think it'll be a bit cagey for the first half an hour, and then we'll start to find the rhythm. I think Aouar and Pepe will give them a lot of worries. I would say 3-0 Arsenal. I'm going in with a very positive start this season.
Okay, that's a bullish prediction, Ryan. How do you see this one?
I'm going to go with Sam. I think it's going to be pretty cagey. It's going to be one of those games. But once we get one, the floodgates are going to open and we're going to beat them 5-0.
5-0. All right. I'm going to take an opposite tack. I'm going to go. I'm starting with the cautious approach. I've been over enthusiastic. Sat there after 60 minutes and looked at it. It's 1-0. It's 1-1, and said, "Okay, just give me the result. Just give me the result." And for the new season, the new manager, obviously, I'm very bullish on Mikel. He proved a lot to me last year, but this is still very much a work in progress. There's still a lot of parts on the squad, a lot of pieces on the squad who probably won't be here when the window closes in October. A lot of pieces who will be here who are somewhere else. I just don't think. I think they've got the firepower, but I do think, as you guys said at the beginning of the show, they're going to face a very defensive squad that's going to look to hang on. I'm just going to go for a result. I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal. But again, unanimous here. 3 points are staying at the Emirates, so that's a good place to be. All right. Any final thoughts? Anything that you've seen floating in the universe, in the Twitter universe, in the football universe while we've been on the air? Because I know you guys have been checking.
Yeah, I just want to say how proud I am that Hector Bellerin plays for Arsenal, because it was announced today that he's now a shareholder for Forest Green Rovers, which are doing a lot for the planet, for sustainability and all that kind of thing. He's a credit to Arsenal Football Club, and that's why we named the podcast after him. He's just a great person. Okay,
Sam, anything that you've seen, anything that everybody should be aware of here in the Save the Bellerin world before we sign off?
Just Arsenal under 21s scored, and it's 2-1 Arsenal in the EFL Trophy.
Okay, so again, we want to thank all of you for coming and joining us. We are growing. If you have not, if you're new to the pod, there's a little subscribe button right down below us for Sports Talk Line, our parent network. You help us grow. Good things happen when you hit that button for us, for the pod. We can bring you better features. If you're unaware, we are working towards an all-day deadline day program here at Saved by the Bellerin. We want to be your stop for that late day, last day Arsenal transfer news. And, you know, I didn't suspect it was going to happen. I really do think it's going to happen now. We're going to be quite busy on that day, and we want all of you to be part of it. But again, we thank you for your support. We thank you for your viewership. We thank you for your wonderful questions. We will be back again on Thursday, and hopefully we will have more transfer news and a little bit more as the match comes in. All right. So for Sam, for Ryan, I'm Raphael, and we bid you all a good evening.